2023 has been quite a year for running shoes. We have seen some absolutely outstanding shoes, and we've seen some of the worst shoes that we've seen in years. But there's been a few present themes that we've seen across the entire year, which is what I'm going to talk about here, what I've observed over 2023. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to do a few creator shout-outs because I want to give props to people that have inspired me throughout 2023. The big macro theme for 2023 to me has felt like it's a year of transition. We're moving from something that we've known for the past few years, which is super shoes, and we're transitioning into the early phases of what's coming next. Now, that's no surprise. Running shoes in the running shoe industry kind of moves in 4 to 5 year cycles. If we go back to 2009 and we look at the barefoot and minimalist thing, that really kicked off with the book Born to Run. Now, by about 2013, that had kind of died out. Brands were transitioning into something else. And 2013 felt like the start of a transitional period. And that period really became known as a period of performance. A lot of what came out of the barefoot thing was stripping shoes down. And then when the barefoot thing ended, manufacturers really now focused on, we have all these lightweight shoes, let's really make them performance oriented. So 2013 until about 2017 was really about maximizing performance. We saw some new foams like Boost from Adidas, and we just got better and better shoes that were very focused on faster running. That kind of completely blew up in 2017 to the super shoe thing. The Nike Vaporfly 4% really blew the doors open to that. And that's the era that we've been in since about 2017, 2018. 2023, what I'm going to label it as, the transition I'm going to label it as, is commodification. Technologies and materials that were previously only present in top-tier race shoes began to trickle down across really every shoe in every manufacturer's line. And that brings me to my first kind of real big theme of the year. And that's something I think everyone saw, and that's the super trainer thing. This is the epitome of commodification of all of that, super foam, super shoe, race tech brought down to the everyday shoe. Now, I've already made a video. There'll be a card on the screen, link in the description, to my thoughts on super trainers. They're not positive. That's not what I'm here to discuss. I think the super trainer thing was a big theme for 2023, and we saw a bunch of them. We saw the Saucony Kinvara Pro, we saw the Hoka Mach X. I think those are probably two of the biggest. I know people consider the Adidas Boston 12 in there, and some people also consider the Asics Superblast in there. I don't necessarily, because I think part of what made the super trainer thing was trying to normalize plated shoes for daily running, which, again, I'm not a big fan of that, but that's not what I'm here to discuss. But the idea of commodifying all those innovations for everyday running, making everyday running better for more runners, at least that's the intent. I think that's great. I think it's an excellent use of all these technologies. But as those once reserved top-tier tech items are being trickled down into even entry-level shoes, that is a sign that something new is coming. There's something next coming. And we got a bit of a glimpse of that with this sort of arms race that Nike and Adidas have entered into with the Adidas Adios Pro Evo 1 and the Nike Alphafly 3. These two shoes, I think, upped the bar for what super shoes are and can be and should be. Adidas is going towards a pull out all stops weight savings thing, and Nike's going back to the roots, also saving a lot of weight, but also like doubling down on the technology that they have in-house. And I think both these shoes have really, again, upped the bar for what a marathon race shoe should be. It's those two themes, the super trainer thing or the commodification of race tech and the Evo 1 and the Alphafly 3, that I think are setting the standard for kind of what's next. This is a transition period. It feels like what is next is around weight savings and next gen foam. So next gen super foams. Again, what we saw in the EVO 1 from Adidas. And I think we're only going to see that ramp up more and more over the coming years. It's going to be interesting when I make this same video a year from now to talk about what actually happened in 2024, but it does seem like weight savings and next gen super foams are going to be something we're going to be seeing a lot of in 2024. Another story, it's not really a theme, but I think it speaks to a theme that we're probably going to see in 2024, but it was a big story that if you were anywhere where running shoes are discussed, and the fact that you're watching this video makes me think you probably are, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing the Asics Superblast getting a ton of love. This shoe became the darling of everywhere running shoes are discussed and running shoe nerds kind of exist. It could kind of do no wrong other than the price. I realize people think the price is too high, but beyond that fact, everyone found something to love about the Superblast. It was everywhere. And the theme that I think this is setting up for 2024 is the idea of the evolution of super trainers. Post the running event in Austin, in November of 2023, about a month ago as a recording of this video, we saw a bit of an evolution on super trainers. We saw more of them without plates in them, but still have all the super foams, the geometries, all the stuff that was, top tier. Some shoes that look a lot more like the Superblast. It's going to be really interesting what Asics does with the Superblast, and I've done a video on what I think may happen, what I hope may happen. Card on the screen, link in the description to that if you're interested. But I think this theme for 2024 is we're going to start to see non-plated super shoes. I think not everyone responds to a carbon plate. Carbon plates are great, but there's a big sort of gap there. And I think the Superblast has really spoken to a lot of that. It's really sort of filled in a gap. And if Asics is smart, they're really going to latch onto that and really jump in and lean heavily into that area, because I think there's a lot of room for innovation in that non-plated super shoe space. Another thing that I don't think you can possibly not mention in 2023 was this feels like it was On Running's year. I'm not going to say they were the brand of the year, but you could make that argument. They were kind of everywhere for a lot of reasons. They got a big bunch of investment early in the year. The company grew like mad. They invested heavily in their Elite and Pro programs, so we saw a lot of on-branded or on-kitted runners in a lot of road racing events throughout the year. Big teams. They got some decent results. And then for just, running shoe nerds, the cloud tech promise that we've heard for, I don't know, however many years On's been around, 6 or 7 years, finally started to come true. In late 2022, we saw the Cloud Monster. That was really the first On shoe that everyone sort of liked, or at least found something they liked about. Then we got the Cloud Surfer, we got the Cloud Boom Echo 3, and then we got the Cloud Eclipse. These 4 shoes form like a core of a real On running line that people seem to really like, and they're getting really positive reviews. So finally On has really sort of, again, lived up to the promise of cloud tech, and they're finally producing shoes that runners actually like. Not to mention on the athleisure side of things, On has sort of been dominant on that, particularly for a little bit older, a little bit more affluent demographic. But, On has had quite a year for sure. On the trail side of shoes, I think there's 2 key themes that really picked up a lot of steam in 2023, and I think they're going to be with us on the trail side at least for the next few years, and I think they're eventually going to impact road shoes. Now, the first one is looking at a trail shoe as a piece of equipment. Now, this may be a subtle distinction, but I think it has huge changes that you're going to see in running shoes, trail shoes first. So traditionally in outdoor manufacturing, you have soft goods, which are things that you wear, clothes, shells, shoes, boots, and then you have hard goods, things that you use, boards, skis, ropes, axes, packs, equipment that you use. Speedland was one of the first companies a couple of years ago now. This did not start in 2023, but I think it's picked up speed. Speedland, a small boutique company, kind of looked at developing a running shoe as a piece of equipment. And if you look at the GS model, their current model, you really look at that shoe, and obviously it's a shoe, but it kind of looks a little bit more like a ski boot or a cycling shoe or a piece of equipment. And it's beyond just the BOA dials. There's a lot of other stuff in that shoe that is just approaching a running shoe, a trail shoe, as a piece of equipment. Now, another brand doing this is Norda, another boutique brand. Now, Norda brought in a material called Dyneema. If you've been involved in ultralight hiking or through hiking, you know Dyneema. It's been around in that world for quite some time. But Norda built their shoe with a Dyneema upper, and then they really looked at sustainability and trying to like make the most durable, the best trail running shoe they possibly could. The Norda 001 dates back to the end of 2021, really picked up a lot of speed in 2022, and it really sort of picked up more speed in 2023. But I think, again, you look at that shoe, obviously it's a running shoe, but you know, there's some things in that shoe that are just, they're a different approach, particularly in the upper. It's just different from a lot of other shoes. And I think another company would be Nnormal, Kilian Jornet's new company that he started in the end of 2022 that really picked up a lot of speed in 2023. Now, Nnormal isn't as small boutique-y brand as Speedland or Norda, but I think they are approaching running or trail shoes as equipment, and they're really looking at things. And I think the Nnormal Caboche, the new sort of shoe with removable inserts or removable insoles or midsoles even, I think that's an interesting sort of statement from Nnormal about where they're headed. That's going to be a running shoe or sort of an all-mountain shoe, but they can pull that technology off, and it's not a new idea. It's been done before, but I think Nnormal has a little bit different take on it, and I definitely feel like they have a different sort of trajectory of where they're going to take it. Really interesting stuff, and that could impact running shoes in general, or just outdoor footwear in general. Could be really interesting. But these boutique brands are really kind of re-looking at trail running shoes as equipment, and that's really changing the materials they look at, the designs and engineering, and how they solve some of the problems of footwear. And I think it's going to be super interesting. We're going to see a lot more of it in 2024, but I eventually see this stuff trickling into road running as well, because there's going to be performance gains, and it's going to be really interesting to see when that sort of jump happens. And lastly, again, on the trail side, I think the idea of trail super shoes has really evolved considerably in 2023. Now, towards the end of 2022, early 2023, we saw some of the first proper trail super shoes, and literally they were just road shoes, road super shoes with lugs put on them. Didn't necessarily work that great. Some of the shoes we saw released, though, in 2023 as trail super shoes, mainly the Nike Ultrafly and the Hoka Tecton X2, I think showed that designers and engineers on the trail programs for these brands are beginning to think about what are the needs of a super shoe, super foams on the trail, because there's very different requirements, stability, grip. There's all sorts of different things on trail that you don't necessarily have on road. So just copying and pasting something on the road and putting on the trail isn't necessarily going to work. And the designers and engineers are really beginning to evolve that. And I think there's been some really interesting shoes that have come out in 2023. Again, the Nike Ultrafly and the Hoka Tecton X2 that begin to show where these could go. We've seen some really interesting previews of what's going to come out in 2024. And it's only going to get more sort of crazy in like the best possible way, because there's a lot of ideas about what a super shoe means for the trail. And again, from a running shoe innovation standpoint, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the trail world right now and into 2024. And lastly, I want to give a few creator shout outs. Now, I'm a new channel. I uploaded my first piece of content way back in the middle of February of 2023, earlier this year. But the planning for this channel goes back even further than that. Late 2022, I was, learning how to edit. I was, putting together a content strategy and putting together ideas about what I wanted to do on this channel how I wanted to do it, the voice I wanted to have, all of that sort of stuff. Now, I've watched the ShoeTube space or the Run YouTube space for many years, learning about shoes, following, all the people that we all follow. But again, at the end of 2022, it seemed like there was an opportunity for some new voices to come into the space, because some of the bigger, shoe tubers were transitioning into bigger media deals. Some were leaving, some were sort of reducing their publishing, some were sort of doubling down into some other areas on YouTube. And that's all cool. But that's what sort of inspired me to begin to create content and really want to finally create a channel after many years of playing with content creation, but also many years of endurance sports, cycling first, then running, and really feeling like I have a story to tell. One of the first creators that I found that sort of got me inspired to kind of understand that there's some new voices coming into the space with new perspectives and new energies was Aubrey Running. Now, I found Aubrey's channel probably towards the end of 2022. I think he only had a couple hundred subscribers. And immediately, just his vibe, his energy, the way he edits, the way he engages the camera, completely different than what I do over here, but still like very engaging. And like it really got me, inspired to sort of create my own content, create my own sort of vibe, because there's Aubrey out there doing it, a very average runner, as he describes himself, telling his stories, putting his content out there, and really doing amazing content. And he's had massive growth over 2023, and it's been great to see. But shout out to Aubrey and everything he's done over there on his channel, because it's really great content. Keep it up into 2024. Another creator that sort of seemed to always be on my homepage, starting in the spring sometime, definitely by early summer of 2023, was Joanna over at Supwell. Just the Casey Neistat-esque daily grind of daily videos, just really useful information, good information, and he's really grown over the past year. It's really good to see. I think particularly the coverage that he did at TRE this past November was exceptional. I think he grew massively. His channel grew massively because of that. But again, he's on that daily Casey Neistat-esque upload, deals, reviews, previews, really interesting content. Again, different vibe, very engaging creator. So keep it up in 2024. I feel like those daily videos are going to keep coming. Now, another creator that I found probably around the time that I was launching this channel back in February is a creator called lukewbarrett. Now, Luke is a Australian ultra trail runner. I don't really know much more about Luke beyond that and what I've seen in his videos, but he produces very beautiful videos with a high level of cinematography. The quality of the videos, the way he tells his stories, and he's really a storyteller, is exceptional. It gives me an insight into ultra running in Australia, which, it's nothing that I would normally ever have, but, watching Luke's videos, and I've gone back and watched most of them at this point, I just really get a sense of like how he's going out and training, what he's going for, getting a really beautiful overview of Australia. He was at UTMB in 2023. His coverage there and some of his trials and tribulations there were interesting. And even when he talks about shoes, it's quite interesting. So if you don't know Luke's channel, go over and check out lukewbarrett. Really beautiful content that I highly recommend. Another creator that I feel like I've followed for a long time, back down to 2019 even, and I've always gone to his channel for quantitative information. This is TimGrose. Tim's channel and the way he will review data in a spreadsheet in his shed is outstanding. I've always loved Tim's videos. I've always gone back to Tim's videos when I see Tim covering a shoe that I was interested in. I would always go check out Tim's video because I wanted to see the data deep dive and really understand his performance. Now, over the course of 2023, I've kind of had the opportunity to strike up a bit of a comment-based friendship with Tim. You'll always see us kind of talking about stuff in the comments of either one of our videos. And it's been really enlightening. I've really enjoyed engaging with Tim, and I highly recommend Tim's channel and his content if you're not already a subscriber. And lastly, I think most of you watching this probably are subscribers, but EDDBUD. I have to mention EDDBUD. I have loved EDDBUD since I first saw one of Ed's videos, again, probably in 2019 or so. It was definitely pre-pandemic. What I love about Ed is Ed has always been Ed. Ed has never changed. Ed's content from the video he put out just a few days ago versus a video he put out 5 years ago, other than the, production quality of it, it's the same Ed. He's telling it the same way. He hasn't changed. I love that. I respect that. He's stuck to his guns, not got wrapped up in drama, just is doing Ed stuff. And I love it. I love his content. I love his takes on things. I find his perspective on shoes quite interesting. We often disagree on shoes, particularly with some brands. But again, I will always go watch an EDDBUD video. And I especially love his reviews and some of his news videos. And then another key thing that I'm going to admit that I'm a little jealous of at Bud is his musical interludes. I've loved those for years as well. And in fact, that's what got me coming back to watch Ed, in the early days. Even though Ed and I have very different musical tastes, there is a little overlap there, but I love the idea of the musical interlude at the end of his videos. I always love those. Even if it's a shoe or a topic I'm not particularly interested in, I still will click on that video. Sometimes I'll let the video play or just go to the musical interlude because I want to hear what Ed has to say about music. It's fascinating. It's something I've wanted to do on this channel. Musical interludes or music stuff, because music is quite important to me. But I'm going to let Ed own that space because Ed does it right. He created it. He owns it. It's amazing over there. So Ed, keep on keeping on. Just keep on doing what you're doing because the content is great. And I love that you're just sticking to your guns and being true to what you put out there. So there you go. That's my running shoe year in review 2023 and my own sort of journey as a creator this year. Again, I'm a new channel. This is my first year up here on YouTube. So I think there's going to be some really interesting stuff coming out from running shoe tech standpoint. There's going to be some really amazing shoes to talk about next year. I'll be covering quite a few of them. I'm actually going to be covering a lot more brands on this channel moving forward than I did in 2023. So we'll be talking about a lot of stuff on this channel. I've got a long content plan for next year, and I've got some, big ideas about things that could happen on this channel. And the podcast. So the podcast will be coming back in January. So a lot of cool stuff. So if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. You'll see more content like this pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.